On the night of October 12, 2016, the small town of Ashford, Connecticut, would become the unlikely backdrop for a chilling crime. It wasn't a sprawling metropolis or a high-stakes city, it was just a quiet, unassuming place, where everyone knew your name, and your business. But one cold October evening, a murder would shatter that peace, forever altering the lives of those involved. This is the story of the killing at Ashford Manor. Meet Julia Warner, a 42-year-old former high school teacher, known for her calm demeanor and her impeccable gardening skills. She was the kind of person who could be relied on for a cup of sugar or advice on how to prune a rosebush. But on that autumn night, Julia's life would come to an abrupt and violent end. Julia had been living alone for the past 5 years after the sudden death of her husband, Daniel Warner, in a car accident. The couple had no children, but Julia had made herself a home in the sprawling Victorian house they'd purchased together, a peaceful existence. But peace, as it often does, can be deceptive. The call was made that night by Jenna Morris, a close neighbor and friend of Julia. But by the time the police arrived at the scene, it was too late. Julia Warner had been found in her living room, slumped over, a knife lodged deep in her chest. There was no sign of forced entry, and no signs of a struggle. It was as if the killer knew Julia intimately. One of the officers that responded to the call later said in an interview regarding the case, "When we arrived at the scene, it didn't look like a random act of violence. The house was in order. Her personal effects were undisturbed. This wasn't a burglary gone wrong." Julia wasn't the type to have enemies. Everyone we spoke to described her as, well, kind of a loner, but not someone who would be involved in anything like this. Police began their investigation by speaking with the people closest to Julia: her neighbor, Jenna Morris, and her longtime friend, Peter Hall, a local bartender and the only other person Julia had confided in about her past. She had this way about her, you know, always so calm, always so put together. But sometimes, she'd get this look in her eyes, like something was bothering her, but she never talked about it, not with me, not with anyone. Jenna had been one of the last people to see Julia alive. The two had spent the evening together at the local coffee shop, laughing and talking about mundane things that, in hindsight, seemed almost too normal. No signs of distress, no mention of any threats or tensions in her life. Detectives began to suspect that the crime was not a random act but something more personal. Julia's marriage had been difficult after the death of her husband, and it was revealed she had been seeing a therapist in the months leading up to her murder. Her records were sealed, but it was clear that Julia was grappling with something darker. And then, a breakthrough. A week after Julia's death, an unexpected tip came through. It was from a man named Jeremy Sloan, an old acquaintance from Julia's past. He claimed to know something about the murder, something that would change everything. When interviewed, he would say this: "Look, I'm not proud of it, but Julia and I, we had history. Back in college. We were together for a while. After her husband died, we reconnected. She needed someone. And I was there. But things got weird. She started talking about someone following her, someone watching her. She thought her husband's death wasn't an accident." Jeremy's revelation was disturbing. Julia had been consumed by the belief that her husband's death was no accident, that it was orchestrated by someone close to her. But she had never told anyone who she suspected. After weeks of investigation, the police made a startling discovery. Julia's best friend, Peter Hall, the one person she had trusted to confide in, had been involved in her husband's death. But there was more. Peter wasn't just a friend, he had been having an affair with Julia. It turns out Peter had been blackmailing Julia. He had killed her husband, Daniel, in a staged accident, and when Julia began to suspect him, Peter knew she would go to the police. So, he did the unthinkable. Peter Hall was arrested and charged with both murders, Julia Warner and her late husband, Daniel. In the end, it wasn't just a betrayal of friendship or love, it was a cold, calculated decision to protect a dark secret. In Ashford, Connecticut, the truth was out. But the scars left on the town would never fade. Julia Warner's death was a tragic reminder that the people closest to us sometimes hold the darkest secrets. Secrets that, when revealed, change everything. This is The Killing at Ashford Manor. Thank you for watching.